Common prepositions in academic writing. So these are the prepositions and their basic form with their basic meanings. So we have about, which means around something or enclosing something. Always interpret, prepositions can be used in a physical sense, but also in a conceptual sense. So it's abstract as well as physical, but often the abstract idea is related to the physical idea. So if you think about, she's going about the room. That means she's walking around the room. And then her paper is about this, right? That means the idea of the whole paper is about this topic. Think about the topic kind of going about the paper, if that makes sense. So the object, this paper is about dolphins. And so picture dolphins going about the paper. Dolphins exist in, around, and about the paper. That's what the paper consists of. Just like the room consists of this woman. She is walking about the room. All right. At, connected to a location. So at, we're going to go over these a little more detail. At is, it's different from what we might think. So I'm going to go into a little more detail later, but you can say you are at the mall, and that means you are anywhere surrounding the mall. Could be inside, outside, on top of, in the parking lot, you're at the location. So it's connected to a location, not necessarily in a specific place. So then we have for, with a purpose or giving a reason. The idea of for is, it's often used in academic writing because we use a lot of gerunds. And when you're using gerund, ing, often you use for. To is the infinitive, so to goes with the basic form of the verb, and for is often with ing. Thank you for going to the park with me today. You can't say thank you to going, you say thank you for going, right? And in that case, for is really important to remember that often it goes with ing. Not always, and sometimes to goes in the same sentence as ing. So we'll talk about that. So for can also be with a purpose, like I'm writing this paper for the academic journal. The purpose of this paper is that it goes to this academic journal. So I'm writing this paper for that. From, obviously the origin. So this letter is from me for you, right? In is completely or partly enclosed by something. So you can be in a room. Or that paper is in this journal. My article was published in the best journal. You can find those results in the work of the following authors. That topic is discussed in my paper, right? So imagine in a room, you're enclosed, just like a topic is enclosed by the other words in your paper, in your essay. I'm going to use paper, essay, and article interchangeably. A lot of people do that. So article is a formal published article. Research paper is just a paper that has one purpose and is written with research, and then an essay is very similar. So just so you know, people use those interchangeably. All right. Of, belonging to something or someone, contained in something. So this is of great importance to me. This is of great importance because. This is of great importance to my research because. So this is of means it belongs to the importance of my paper. The importance of my paper is the larger umbrella. Of the importance is these 3 points, right? So this is important to my paper, or this is of great importance to my paper. Of can also often be used in very formal ways like that. On, the basis for something. So this paper is on this topic. Not this paper is in this topic. This paper is on this topic. It means I'm writing this paper about. This paper is on this topic. To, in a direction. So you go toward something, to. Just like I'm going to give this gift to her. So it's the same idea when you use to in writing. So just like you're thinking about the physical direction of one thing to another, you can think about the direction of one idea to another idea. That's how English works. It's a little strange. I know that most languages don't have words like these. Even when they do, there aren't so many of them. That's why they're so confusing. And in English, we have physical things that translate into abstract things. It's kind of strange, but it's also nice sometimes. It makes language really interesting. So then we have with. With is when there's a connection between two things. So you can go with somebody to the park. You guys are going together. This is connected with. You can say this is connected to, or this is connected with. You can use with in many ways in academic writing, and we'll talk about different examples. Okay. So I know I was saying those. You might want to turn around and listen to my sentences and write them down, just like you would in a lecture. So write down those sentences. I gave you some examples that you might use them in academic writing. So I want to look at this picture of the mall. So I want you to think about where, if I were to say I'm in the mall, where I would be. All right. If you said inside the walls, surrounded by the walls, you were correct. So these people, you can kind of see some people in here, and right there you see people inside the glass. Those people are in the mall. All right. And then, what about on the mall? Are there any people on the mall? What is on the mall? There are actually signs on the mall, right? You have a sign right here. It's on it. These are on it as well. They're not on top of it, but they are on the mall. They're on the physical idea or space of the mall. So you have Zara, I'm not sure. And then you have playground. These signs are on the mall. The stores are inside the mall, but the signs are on the mall. At the mall. Are there any people who are at the mall? It's these people. Okay? They're not inside the mall. They're not on the mall. That would be almost impossible unless you were cleaning it. And yet they are in the vicinity of the mall. They are connected to that area, to that location, because they're in the parking lot of the mall. So if they were to call their friend, they would say, hey, I'm at the mall. Want to come meet me here? And then their friend would have to ask, okay, you're at the mall, but where are you specifically so I can find you? And they'll have to say, oh, I'm in front of it, or I'm in the parking lot by the front door. Or if they were in the mall, they'd have to say, oh, well, I'm at this store. I'm at Zara's. I'm on the second floor. I'm in Zara's on the second floor. Right? So you can say, I'm at a store, I'm inside of the store, I'm on the floor. All right? So we have a few different sentences here. I am at the mall. That means in, on, or around the mall. on the mall, on the top of the mall. That would be kind of strange, but maybe you're a window cleaner. In the mall, that means you're inside the building. I am around the mall. That means you could be around, like you could be running around the mall. Okay. I'm at the mall. I am on the top of the mall. I'm in the mall. I'm running around the mall. I am at Zara's in the mall. I am inside or in Zara's at the mall. You can say either one of those. I am on the second floor. Okay, so both of the ons have a very physical feeling. You're on the floor or you're stuck onto the wall, right? At the mall is a little more conceptual. Just because you're not in a very specific physical place, but you're just connected to the idea of location. But you have to be in a certain vicinity. You can't be inside this building and then say you're at the mall, right? Because this building is a different place. Okay, and then running around the mall. That's a very physical idea, very physical word in this situation. At Zara's in the mall. So you can be at a store. So maybe you're standing outside of the store, but you're inside of the mall. And then you can say you're inside of Zara's, you're inside of the store at the mall, which is at the mall, right? Here you're saying you are in the mall. Here you're saying Zara's is at the mall. It's very confusing. I know you're going to hear these a lot. And then on the second floor. So I want you to pay attention when you're listening to people and you hear people using prepositions. All right, so here's another one. We have in the bowl, right? The bananas are in the bowl. Can you say the bananas are at the bowl? No. Bananas can't be at anything, right? You can say, I found these bananas at the mall or at the grocery store. But bananas typically are seen as objects that can't be in the vicinity of something. You base the vicinity of the object with where it is. So if you would say, you're not going to say the bananas are at the mall. You can say the bananas are inside of the basket in the kitchen, right? You're going to give a very specific place because when you're talking about, if somebody's asking you about bananas, you're not going to give them a general idea of where they are. You want a very specific idea about where they are. So it's very weird to say something is at another place unless you're a person, because you can be in a general vicinity. If you don't care about the specifics, then I guess you could say at. But in this case, we're not going to say that. We know exactly where the bananas are. They're in the bowl. Even if an object isn't in the bowl, it's not even touching the bowl, like this apple right here, you would still consider it as being in the bowl. It's not at the bowl, hanging around at the bowl. It's inside of the bowl. Are they on the bowl? That's a really strange question, right? Because technically, yeah, they're on the bowl. They're touching it. They're on top of it. But it's the shape of the bowl that changes it. It's more like a cup, right? So it surrounds them. It partially surrounds them. So they're inside of it. If it were a plate, if it were flat, then you would say that they were on the plate. So, but the bowl is on the table because the table doesn't surround the bowl. All right. Let's look here. This paper is on dolphins. This paper is about dolphins. This paper is in the biology journal. Oops. This paper from 2013. This paper is you can say those ideas are in this paper. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways you can use these prepositions as more of an idea. They're more conceptual. It's the same prepositions, right? But they're more conceptual. But you're not going to say these ideas are at the paper. You're not going to be giving a general idea of where they are. They're inside of it. So the ideas are in the paper, but the paper is about or on. You can say this paper is for my professor. Okay. So sometimes you can tell what prepositions you're supposed to use based on the prefix. So either in or en. Here you would have inherent in because of the meaning of the prefix. The meaning of in means inside of, so interested or engaged. It's something that pulls you in. So of course you're going to use in. However, that's not always the case because you could have interrelated with. So sometimes when the idea of the word is more about commingling, about coming together equally, then you're going to use the word with. In is used when something is drawn into something else not equally, right? So a student is interested in the teacher. That doesn't mean that the teacher is interested in the student as well, right? But with is usually together equally, two things coming together equally. So you have to think about the prefix, what the prefix means, and then what the preposition means to see if they can go together. So co means coming together equally, commingling, communicate, right? These go with because with means a bonding of two things equally. They go, I'm going to go with her. That doesn't mean that I'm being drawn in by her. I'm going with her on my own volition. It's my choice. We're going together. Okay. So there are some, this is not, I'm not going to give you a list of these, but it's just a way to get you to think about prepositions as going with the meaning of the verb before it. It has to work together. This verb and this preposition need to work together. They need to have some kind of common meaning. So I want to give you, before we go into verbs, I want to give you some rules. So basically, the infinitive to goes before the verb. So I want to go, and then she went to sleep. This is not a preposition here. This is using the infinitive. This is just the basic form of the verb, and in this case, you're using to. That's very different from when you're using the preposition to when it goes after the verb. I'm going to the park, toward the park. I want to go to the gym. So just recognize that these are different. Okay, so now I can show you some examples of the verb preposition combination. So when you're thinking about verbs in the context of academic writing, about prepositions in the context of academic writing, you don't need to completely understand the basic form or basic meaning of the verb, of the prepositions like we were doing here. And you don't really need to memorize, the meanings of these. I do want you to think about prepositions as being a physical thing, like think about them in a physical space to better understand them. But I want you to also think about them as being deeply connected to another verb. So some verbs can never go with some other prepositions because the meanings don't go together. They just don't work. So this works together. Abstain. Abstain means to avoid, to not do something. So if you say abstain from, you're like pushing away that thing. Rather than coming from something, you're abstaining from it. You're pushing it away. So it's the opposite of coming out of. You're moving away from it. So from can mean she is from New York. She was in there and she came out. Or she's abstaining from drinking Coca-Cola. So that means maybe she used to drink it and now she's not drinking it. So pushing away, moving away from something. From can be used in a positive or a negative way, right? Okay. To decide against, right? So you make a decision, and then the word here, against, is really going to determine the tone of the verb. So you decide to do something, or you decide against doing something. That's really going to change how you use that verb in the meaning of the sentence. Okay. So remember we talked about how phrasal verbs aren't always used in academic writing because, especially very short ones. But there are verb preposition combinations that are formal, and you can see them as phrasal verbs. The reason that we say phrasal verb is because the meaning of the preposition is going to change the meaning of that verb. And so you have to see them as connected, as one word almost. You can see that with academic writing. I'm not trying to tell you that you should be using those short phrasal verbs like go to. You want to find a verb that captures that meaning without using the word go. However, abstain from clearly sounds very, very academic. And assure of is very academic. I am going to stay assured of him. Like, I'm going to trust him. Approve of. These are very academic terms. Those are fine to use, right? So you just want to make sure that the verb itself is academic, and then you can see it as working together with one of these prepositions. Here's another list of prepositions and then verbs that go with those prepositions. So I listed all these here, so you can find them on the Prezi. They're really useful. I strongly suggest using these. Yeah, they're great. I just wanted to give you some other examples of how you're using prepositions here. So using the word research, you can use prepositions in different ways. So research on successful children is needed. Research on, that means research about. So on and about in this situation are pretty similar. In a physical sense, they are not similar at all, but here they are similar. When you're talking about research on or about a topic, they're the same thing. Research in the field of substance abuse is needed, right? In a field, because a field is a larger thing and the research is within that larger umbrella. Recent research into bacteria in a California lake. Recent research into bacteria. So it's an interesting way to use research. Way to use a preposition with research. This isn't as common, but it's a very specific topic. That's why it's not so common. Research into this very specific topic, you can use that. But it's very rare. More often you're going to see these two. Okay, research by the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. This is very common. Research by her. is very well read or very common to read in graduate school. Research by this professor, right? Research with a small number of participants. With. Research that worked with a small number of participants. You could also say research that included. That would be a different way to look at it. All right, so I want you to go to these websites and just look at the examples of prepositions. We also have a website that shows you gerunds with prepositions. So a lot of the time using a preposition in a prepositional phrase, you are going to have a gerund afterwards that's ing because you're not using the infinitive. You're not using to have, you're saying after having. You're using that gerund. For having, that's why when you use for, often it goes with ing. Here are a lot of examples of that.